For my 2024 Transalp 750, I chose lower crash bars only, specifically the stainless steel ones from SRC. I also put on the Zeta forged aluminum hand guards, and for those who don't know, Zeta is a Japanese maker, and SRC is an American company made in Thailand, to the best of my knowledge. SRC uses stainless steel, including the skid plate from what I can understand from their website, and it seems to be so. And by the way, there are no sponsors for this video, so please, if you do enjoy my content, like and subscribe to help grow the channel. But without wasting too much time, let's talk about the 3 types of drops that would be considered if these are actually working, now that I've had them for a bit over 6 months, and the bike's been down quite a bit. So the first one is just a stationary drop. Either you put your kickstand in the wrong spot, or you had the wrong footing. For that one, the camera wasn't rolling, but here are some photos. And after I picked it up, there was no visible damage anywhere. I have these little Amazon special plastic sliders, so between those and the plastic on the handguards, there was no visible damage once I washed the dirt off. So for the simple drops, I'm gonna say I'm happy. And it should be noted right now that I haven't had the bike go down on pavement, but I have with similar lower bars on other bikes like my Tracer, and it's been completely trouble-free. But I can't say quite about this bike yet, and I hope not to find out. Now the second level of crash protection to consider would be in-motion slow drops. Now that's to say I didn't go down with the bike, and it wasn't that big a speed or that major of a drop, but again, how did it hold up since I'm not protecting the plastics of the upper fairing, at least not visibly? Now again, not only did the Zeta Hand Guards and SRC lower crash bars take the entire blunt of the force, and have no visible damage whatsoever to the rest of the bike, the SRC bars do stick out slightly wider than the engine itself, obviously, but this makes it easier to pick up the bike because you can kind of rock it back to the wheels and you're already partially up, versus a bike like a Tenere that can fall extremely flat. And this is a point to say that the Transalp, despite not having some fancy tank like KTM, is not a top-heavy bike. In fact, I helped someone pick up a dual sport the other day, and it didn't really feel all that much lighter than my Transalp, despite that being a 250 purpose-built bike. So I don't know what Honda did, but good job. But again, that was trouble-free protection. Now the third drop happened about 2 weeks ago, and that was where I was in motion on gravel and rocks, and the bike went down at a modest slow speed pace that involved a bit of sliding and me being trapped under it.
Oh, there's my leg. I'm trapped. Jutta. Ashi.
I'll have a different video coming out soon about the crash itself and the injuries I discovered by the time I got home and what to do in the future, but as far as the bike itself, this time the bars do have some scratches, and the fairing very light scratches. So light that they don't show up on camera. So I took these pictures, and I hope you can see it, but you may actually have to turn up the resolution on the video to make sure they show up. So let's talk about the long-term pros and cons. On the plus side, I'm happy I didn't waste money on upper crash bars that could increase vibration and will add extra weight up high for when you're picking up the bike or balancing it at low speeds. That said, just for that extra peace of mind, I would love to see some polypropylene fairings for the Transalp. I'm looking at you, Camel ADV. But as a quick disclaimer, these have been my experiences. Everything you do to your bike and your ride is at your own risk. No 2 crashes are the same. A AAA piece of riding gear could rip at low speeds because of the pavement you fall on, and a single A riding gear could help you survive a high-speed crash. It's all kind of as best as we can judge. But for my experience, it's been very good. But with that, let's move on to the 2 negatives. The first is, where the system mounts to the frame, the unused holes for the upper crash bars rusted within the first 2 weeks. Maybe I should have painted through them, but it does leave me to believe that these are not stainless steel, because the proper stainless bolts are still looking brand new right next to them. And as for the crash bars themselves, where the scratches are, you can see in the picture there is a minimal amount of surface rust. Now, the idea that stainless doesn't rust is untrue. It is rust resistant. Surface rust is something that can happen, and so this amount of rust compared to mild steel is very surface and superficial. So I do expect these are still at least mid-grade stainless steel, and I'm still not too worried about that in the long term. And as I said in my video for pick and crash protection, the big issue with mild steel is once rust gets in, it's pretty hard without grinding to get the rust out, and it can go through the whole thing and make it brittle quite quickly. The other negative is in one drop where I didn't get it on camera because the battery died 10 seconds before the bike went down, the handguard from Zeta did twist a bit, but it wasn't hard to put back and it was pretty easy to set up. However, in that drop, several other drops, and that gravelly rocky drop, it did twist the handlebars. Not bend, but twist in the clamps. Now that's simple enough to loosen and straighten the bars, but it is a thing that when you don't have upper crash bars and that much weight is coming down on the handles themselves, it's something worth checking. And I guess a quick service note to you, the viewer, on bikes with longer travel suspension, because of all the oscillation and flexing and everything, your forks can actually get twisted. So it's a good idea every now and then to check them. There are some tricks to straighten them out, but that's not what this video is about. If there's enough interest, I'll make a really quick how to straighten out your forks, assuming they're not bent and just twisted. So now that I've had these experiences, would I buy this setup again? Yes, absolutely. The welds are very strong, and they're not pinch welds where they pinch the pipe to make them fit. They are culped cuts, so it maintains as much strength as possible. Not all makers do that. If, however, I was to change protection, besides the idea of polypropylene fairings in the future, there are two possible routes that I would consider. One, I'm considering my own DIY protection, but that's a bit of another video for another time. And Altrider, as of the filming of this video on December 3rd, 2024, has not released crash protection for the Transalp. They are the one company that I do kind of respect as the top of the top of the top. You spend a lot, but you do get what seems to be the best, and it is stainless steel and a high grade of it. The pros and cons to spending that much is if you're buying a bike that's reliable and should last you a decade or so, why not get protection that would also last? Buy once, cry once. The negatives are, how many of us see ooh shiny and want to replace our bike every year? But as of right now, I have no reason to consider changing my protection. Oh, and as for the skid plate, it's blocked a lot of mud from going up into the engine and all over the muffler, which has prevented rust inside on the muffler, and it makes the whole thing a bit easier to clean. It's taken some moderate hits from rocks, from slow groundings when I hit some bumps too fast, and it's bounced off a couple tree branches here and there, but nothing major, nothing far beyond my skill level. But that's it for this. Thank you for watching. This has been Kairyu Rider, and I hope to see you back here real soon. Bye bye!